All right, everyone. It's Friday, and you know what that means. It's time for manufacturing e-commerce success. I'm one of your co-hosts, Damon Pistolka. That pretty guy right over there is Curt Anderson, co-host, ready to go today. Today, we're going to be talking with Dave Crysler about automate, delegate, or eliminate things to drastically improve your business. Curt, take it away.
Dude, all right, first off, let's all right, Dan Bigger, Mr. Bigger than life. How about Go Blue, Go Blue national champions, right? And we brought on a guy from Michigan just for you, Dan Bigger. So how's that? So, all right, man, happy Friday. Damon Pistolka from Exit Your Way, Curt Anderson from B2B Tail. Man, what an honor. What a privilege to be here with the one, the only Dave Crysler. David, how are you, brother?
I'm great, man. I don't know if I'm going to live up to all this hype. I mean, my gosh, I might not even be able to get out of the office door after this live show today.
Well, you know what? Between your wife gave me a buzz and she's like, hey, can you, prop him up a little bit? I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, you don't even need to ask me to prop up Dave Crysler. And like, hey, Diane Byers in the house. She's coming to us on Twitter, man. She's on X. How's that? So Dave is.
Oh yeah.
So Dave Crysler streaming live on LinkedIn and Twitter today. Damon streaming all over the place, guys. Man, sit back and enjoy this one because I'm telling you, Dave, you can plug your ears, and I don't care how big your head gets, dude. You've completely changed my life, man. Changed my processes. I consider you my accountability coach. I don't, if it's not every day, I'm like, all right, what would Dave tell me to do? How would Dave handle this? So now, Dave Crysler is a repeat offender. He needs to find new friends, or he needs to be a better judge of character, but he's a repeat offender. We did not ask this question the last time Dave was on the show. So David, are you sitting down? Are you ready for this one?
Oh boy. Hit me with it.
Are you okay? So hey, MD's in the house here. Happy Friday to you, MD. Whitney Houston. Man, right. I was in person with Whitney. Whitney, I like being in person with you better than here virtually. But so, hey, sending lots of love to our friend Whitney. Dave Crysler, question for you of the day. As you were a little guy growing up, okay, take us back. What was that, 5 or 10 years ago?
Only 5 or 10 years ago.
Maybe 12. When you were a little guy growing up, who was your hero? Who was your hero as a little guy growing up?
Wow, that's a great question. And I'm sure that you get a lot of similar answers. I might throw you guys for a loop with this one a little bit. I honestly would say that the biggest hero I had, especially when I was a little kid, was my mom.
Nice.
And the reason why is because, I've shared a bit of this story before, right? Like I grew up in manufacturing, a couple of different manufacturing businesses. So, when I was a little guy, my dad got pretty sick and had some pretty major health stuff going on. And my mom was the one that ultimately stepped into the one business and kind of figured stuff out, right? Like so many business owners and leaders do. And it was, as young as I was, I can still kind of remember those moments. And as that continued to go on in life, there were other moments where she continued to kind of just dive in head first and show her strength and really lead. And, it was the start of all of that I kind of hang my hat on, the work ethic, the kind of grinding, the constant learning, the just jumping in and figuring it out, making mistakes based on limited information and just trying to move forward constantly. And she's always done that. So I really, I'm really grateful for having grown up in that and having saw that firsthand, not just because of the entrepreneurship piece of it, but, really from a character building standpoint. So.
Well, I absolutely love that. So David, mom and dad, entrepreneurs, and I know that right on your LinkedIn profile, you have, spending weekends at the shop, right?
Yeah.
What's mom and dad's name, please?
Sherry and Dennis.
Sherry and Dennis. Talk a little bit, so you dug in a little bit about mom rolling up her sleeves. Like, how do you feel that impacted you now as a parent, as an adult, as an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
What did that influence mean to you now that you're older, maybe reflect it and understand it, respect it a lot more than maybe you did as a little guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, again, it's really interesting because I feel like growing up in that environment and seeing all the things I did, it really shaped my entire life. You know, I mean, like, and not to be cliche about it, but you know, growing up in that environment when after high school and as I was going to college, I went to work for my parents. You know, that was like my first kind of real job, if you will. And I was doing a lot of, like, I didn't know it at the time, right? But I was like doing a lot of optimization and kind of system building. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, but you know, looking back, I was like, oh, well, that was the first time I had to deal with that. And you know, what was interesting though for me was like, you see that firsthand, you see the challenges of growing something from nothing and all of the stuff, right? Like how focused you have to be at work and how involved you get and really that kind of working in versus working on your business. And, you know, I looked at that, and when they sold that business that I was working at, I stayed there for a period of time, but ultimately left and kind of went to seek working for a big company because I kind of like had this thought process like, all right, well, I see what this is like. Obviously they've got things kind of figured out, because how else do you get to be so big, you know? And you know, so that was kind of that part of the journey. And to kind of wrap up all of that, right? Like as I left that, because I got married, we're expecting our daughter, that was one of the things I thought about. You know, I was traveling quite a bit. We were living in an area that we, you know, not necessarily kind of saw ourselves in forever. And, you know, I had this thought process back to like when I was growing up and said, you know, I really want to be available and to do all of the things and to, you know, take an afternoon off and go to lunch randomly or whatever the case was, right? Go to a concert, all of those types of things. And this for me was kind of the pathway to be able to do that. So I knew I wanted to be back in an entrepreneurial spot. So, you know, it's really, like I said, not to be cliche, but it's really shaped my entire life, kind of the entire trajectory. Going to work for a really big company, I'm ultra thankful for all of those opportunities and the things that I learned there. I would never tell you that while I was navigating any of those challenges, but looking back, I can certainly say that I'm beyond grateful for all of that. And it is what paved the way for me to do the things I love to do today, because it really unlocked the passion for looking at problems through a new lens, bringing people together, and just starting to unpack all of the opportunities around that. So yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Man.
But I can't not show this comment, Dave, because I think you're gonna enjoy this just as much, from Dan Bigger. We have to, we have to pick a date.
We got
I love this.
Like, you got to shave your head, and it's national. And hey, you know what? And I'm going back. How about Whitney, dude? Like, you got me right.
There you go.
It's like I there might be like a little tear right here, Damon. So
Yeah.
hey,
I have something to add to that too. Dan, did you know that you can submit days into the National Day Registry? So you can take a forward step into creating this actual day so we can all celebrate.
That would be
hey,
something we should do.
My mom thanks you. My mom sends, you know, so all right. So wait, we've got John Baglino is in the house streaming. So MD says happy Friday. And so again, guys, keep the comments coming
in here today.
Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. So yeah, what other comments we got here, Damon? So let's do this, guys. Speaking of comments, if you're not familiar with Dave Crysler, we strongly encourage you. We invite you. We welcome you. Connect with Dave on LinkedIn. You'll thank us later. Man, this guy is a powerhouse. I'm telling you firsthand, he's completely changed my whole process. Like, it's almost embarrassing of like I took 50 some years to be so efficient. So Dave, thank you for the changes that you've helped me with.
Yeah, man.
And so we're going to talk about, man, you had some great lines here. The passion for viewing problems through a new lens. Okay. We just talked about mom and dad being your heroes. Let's do a deep dive, man. Let's go right there. How do you help folks with this operational excellence? How do you help? We're here talking automate, delegate, and eliminate your way to success. Like, let that sink in for a second, everybody. Let that sink in. Please drop your questions in the chat box, because we have the efficiency expert here. Dave, let's go there. How did you come up with this automate, delegate, eliminate? Let's go there.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a simplified framework. A lot of the folks that I talk to, whether it be an ops leader, a business owner, you get so bogged down in the day to day, and it's easy to say like, "Hey, I know I have all these priorities. I know I have all these initiatives. I know I have all of fill in the blank." And the reality is you get to the office and the first fire pops up. And so you grab your extinguisher, and then the next fire pops up and you go run over there. And before you know it, you miss lunch and it's 3 o'clock and you sit down and you're like, what happened today? Like, why do I feel like this? Why do I feel so beat up? And, so for me, it's really just a process of simplification. You got to understand, where are you spending your time? And what are those types of things that are really bogging you down, right? And then you can start to prioritize and look for ways to, again, my favorite is eliminate, right? Because so often we're doing things without, we do them because we've always done them, but there's no, kind of recourse if we stop. Like I'll give you guys a great story. So I was working with this ops leader who, and if you guys have ever seen the movie Office Space, like anybody that's seen this movie will appreciate this, right?
It's the TPS reports, right?
Yeah. So she starts telling me about her TPS reports, right? And I go, I just go, just don't send them. Just don't send them once and see if anybody asks.
Yep.
And if you do that for like a week and nobody asks you, that is an eliminate bucket. Okay.
Yeah.
Because nobody's even looking at these things.
Yep.
But yet somewhere along the way, somebody said that we needed to do this. Right. And so there's all kinds of opportunities. Like if we're talking about, from a leadership perspective, there's all kinds of opportunities to do that, but you can expand on that, right? Like you can do that for your team. You could do it for a particular work center. You could do it for a work cell. You could do it for a department. You could do it for, across the organization. So yeah, for me, it's just a really simplified framework and kind of get you in the right mindset of, how can I start taking some of the things that I'm doing from a day-to-day task perspective and, start to find some efficiency within that. And then, it just continues to compound and snowball. We could talk about, productivity, entirety, right? Like efficiency versus utilization. We could bring this into product quality and talk about, those processes and how does that, kind of flow from this same thought process, right? Yeah. I would almost guarantee that most manufacturers today are doing some sort of inspection process, sampling process, something that is probably a time waster from the standpoint is not delivering any kind of actual return on investment. And it's because we've not dug into the details of what the root causes are of the defects that we've created to then understand, like, how did this even start? And like, why are we looking at this? We should be looking over here. It's again, you can apply this so narrowly or broadly that it becomes just a really effective tool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just got to say this because I didn't realize it, but Polar Nights, thank you for this comment. I didn't realize it. If you look at Curt and then you look at me and then you look at Dave, yes, that is the evolution of beard growth. It's so awesome because the guests see that stuff and it's great. Thanks for sharing that.
That is awesome.
And Ray Zagano says, he says it's the before and after of like the hair growth for men. It's like you start here, you go to Damon, and then you go to Dave, right?
Yeah, so exactly. We got Sarah said she talked to you yesterday, Dave, and she was instantly inspired. That's awesome, Sarah, for dropping that. And then and Diane dropped in again too. It's in understanding and priorities and eliminate and streamline. This is just the eliminate step is so critical because just like you said, you're just doing it. And you really, sometimes it's just best to stop and see if anyone says anything.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's you can, depending on who you want to cite, right? But it's kind of the number one reason that I such a huge proponent and kind of against like why are we looking at a new tech solution, right? Like, why aren't we focused on optimizing the process? And optimizing the process means looking for things that we can potentially eliminate, looking for things that we can potentially optimize / automate, right? And in most cases, you'll need a piece of tech to automate, but I lean more towards that eliminate piece, because too often we're doing tasks within that process flow that we don't even need to do. It's an additional touch. And so, but when we focus on that tool or the tech first, then it's just kind of automatic that, well, this is what we've always done. So of course we're going to automate that piece of it too, versus saying, well, what don't we have to do anymore?
Right.
And more importantly, why, right? But I mean, that's kind of the root of all of that. So
Let's get grab a couple more comments here, Damon. So John says, I wouldn't be able to keep a straight face. And he says, hey, I might have to watch Office Space. Today might be a good day for a movie. And Dan says, optimize and maximize. So Dave, let's go here. So we're talking about eliminating. What if you just don't do the TPS reports? And I absolutely love, like look in the mirror on this one, right? The defects that we created. The defects that it's that person, we're going to blame somebody else. But when you look at the mirror, like the defects that so you're talking about, like, what could we eliminate? And as a company, it's easier, hey, we should do this. As individuals, let's talk about automate. Okay. That's what I feel like you've really helped me with, is on automate side.
Yeah.
Let's go there for a minute. What are some tips, strategies? We've got Dan, John Baglino, Diane Byer, Whitney, Sarah's in the house here. And again, guys, you have questions, man. This is a great time to drop them. Connect with Dave on LinkedIn. But Dave, let's talk a little bit about automation for us solopreneurs, solo marketers. What are some automation tips that you feel are really helpful to move the needle?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many, right? Like, it is honestly the coolest part of the technological advances, that have come to be, right? So a couple of my favorites, right? You can start on what I would consider the lowest level in terms of that automation piece with a Zapier or Zapier, depending on how you like to fall on that
model, right?
Exactly. That's a great one, right? To get you started. Their kind of latest update gives you a really cool visualization tool in terms of, like, how do you integrate some of the siloed other technologies that we tend to have within our business. Make.com is my favorite when it comes to kind of that automation piece, especially when you want to start to get a bit more deep into integrations. Comparatively speaking, you can do a lot more with Make than you can with Zapier. And so that's another great tool. But there's other things, right? Like, you can automate social media posting and those types of things. That's a form of automation. Again, to me, the tool doesn't matter, right? Like, it's literally, it's like, hey, I need a hammer. All right. Well, does it matter what the brand is? Well, maybe, right? Like, maybe you could talk about the features and benefits of one over the other. You could talk about the quality of one over the other, but at the end of the day, it's still going to help you, pound a nail in. Yeah. So, technology and tools for me are the same. The big key there, again, is, let's look at the process and what are we trying to do with that process, right? How do we automate the process, and how do we eliminate the kind of inherent waste and or errors within that process? That is what the technology is there for. Okay. So that's why it is so imperative that we understand, these are the things I need done. This is the order I need done. And we don't add in stuff that is kind of, non-value add or non-additive to the result that we're ultimately seeking. That is how you identify the appropriate tool to use. That is how you ultimately implement in the most streamlined fashion. And that is how you almost guarantee, successful integration and adoption, right? Like, that's the thing. Yeah.
Well, Dan Bigger here just says, Dave Crysler, I just threw up in my mouth. Never do things that don't hit that line. This is how we've always done it. One of the death lines of all businesses. And then Dan follows up and says, tech is not, capital N-O-T,
Yeah.
always the solution.
I'll give you a personal example of tech is not always the solution. Okay. I love technology. Have always loved technology. I've always, kind of pushed and figured out ways to integrate technology, taught myself how to code. I've done custom software development, custom integration, all kinds of stuff. I love technology. All right. But I'm going to tell you, it can also be a tremendous crutch for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't have the process and the people coming together to identify, right, what those tasks are that we need to do, and we just simply rely on the tech, it can be really easy to overlook simple things and to hold ourselves accountable. So the one perfect example of this would be most everybody should, if they don't, but most everybody, whether you're a solopreneur up through enterprise, has a CRM, right? It's how we have to maintain our relationships. It's how we continue sales conversations, prospecting, all of the things. One of the things that CRMs are not great at are kind of the accountability piece of what's the repetition? How many touch points am I making on any given day, week, month, quarter, right? The old school checklist, right? Pen and paper, simple.
Right.
We don't need to build out a complex technology. We don't need to identify something that we can live in a digital world to check a box that says, I did this today. I did that today. Right. So there is something tactile about keeping things manual and not in technology that reinforces. It's been proven. Research tells us that it is important to still write and to, be able to have some sort of tactile response in there. So, there's opportunities abound for all of these types of things. And again, that's coming from, a guy that loves technology.
So here we got a comment here, and I don't know, is this Dan says that Ron Higgs is here. I don't know if this is Ron's comment, but considering the Eisenhower matrix with the urgent and important categories, I found the most important things considered urgent are self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah.
Man, how about that for a little eye opener, right?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead, Damon.
And there's some of these, you talk about the CRMs, right? And it makes it really easy to spray and pray a gazillion emails, text messages, whatever. But it doesn't mean that you're really doing what you should be doing when you automate some of these things. And some of this really is human, needs to be human.
Right.
And
it's
that's
the busy versus productive argument, 100%.
Busy versus productive. Let's go there. And hey, guys, we've got some questions. Dave, let's start hitting the questions. I love that. So, Damon, what we love to talk about is like, how do you eliminate those time wasters, those profit killers? And, man, I have so far to go on this. How you've got to be militant with your time. That's the only thing we have is time. Dan Bigger says, Dave Crysler, how can I get my quote best friend, boss, and AKA my wife to get organized so she can get an order out faster? I've been working on this process for 20 years. Dave Crysler, curious minds want to know, what does the expert say to that answer?
Tread delicately.
Good answer. Good answer.
All right. Now we're no longer operational excellence consultants here. Well, I'm not, but Dave, we're now marriage counselors, right, Dave?
Right. I mean, what's interesting about that? I'll give like the real world case study of that, right? Like when I go into a business, one of the best kind of starting points is the front end of the business, because traditionally speaking, the front end from kind of client contact to getting the order to the shop, right? So that's what I'm calling the front end of the business. Typically, that series of processes is just burdened with inefficiency. And generally, it has to do with both the kind of technology that's been implemented, because it's been implemented from a technology standpoint and not from a people and process standpoint. And if you look at that flow, there are just inherent delays in it. Well, I had to send a series of questions back to the client to understand all of the specifications. Well, how can we build a process to collect all of that on the front end? How can we preemptively solve for that issue that we've identified time and time again. If it has something to do with receivables or down payment or, anything like that, if it has to do with, lead times for suppliers, all of those are pieces and opportunities to take a look at, document what the processes are, prioritize what our ideas are in terms of trying to solve for that, right? That could be eliminate, that could be automate, that could be, we need to be able to capture additional information. So let's do that. And then we start to roll those changes out, and then we can, measure and monitor. And then we get into that cycle again,
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So, all right, guys, we're here with Dave Crysler again. I think I'm losing track of time. We're like coming to the top of the hour. If you just joined us, please connect with Dave on LinkedIn, and he puts out just wonderful content, great tips. And I love what you do. You do it with like a fun, like a flair. You take, kind of like a dry topic and you really add a lot of spice to it. We've got some comments here from Diane Byer. Pen and paper, say what? And then Dan says, what if I can't read my own writing? I should have been a doctor. Hey, we're sending love. We're getting some love here today, so we appreciate that. Dan says, Ron Higgs, you're probably right. That is for our 4 kids. We get Andre is saying, great idea of the video. Happy to watch it. Again, guys, keep the comments coming. Hey, Diane says, Dan, marriage counseling is at 2 o'clock. All right, Diane, thank you for helping Dan out with the marriage counseling. You've got our back. We appreciate that so much. Let's go here, Dave. Okay, so you know what? There was a question back here. I think Sarah dropped a question. Damon, I don't know if you saw that one. Dave Crysler, can you share a real-life example of elimination in your operation? Damon, I want you to think about one. I've got one that I'll think about. Dave, anything that you want to chime in for Sarah here?
Yeah. I got to think of a good real life scenario. I mean, if we're gonna utilize kind of a manufacturing scenario or story, I'll go back to kind of like my quality example, a bit of that, right? So often we kind of get situated into that routine again, because, typically it's the typical knowledge transfer that happens from a training and process standpoint, right? So we kind of just get in this rhythm of doing the same thing over and over again without ever asking, why are we doing this? Is this driving a result? Is it truly preventative? And how do we know? How do we know that this is truly preventative? So I guess that would really be my example. When we're looking at something like a quality process, and let's just say it's on one piece of equipment, and we're talking about some sort of intervaled inspection. How did we come to understand that that's the interval? How are we ensuring that, we've collected the appropriate sample for that? I'll take it one step further. How are we ensuring that we are measuring whatever that collected sample becomes? Because oftentimes there's variation within those collected samples. But if we've never gone to that next layer to understand, how are we testing for that and how are we ensuring for that? You could be at as much, if not more risk. So I went a bit in a different direction than like kind of straight up eliminating things, but it's all the same concept, right? All the same concept. You could take that and apply that to a setup on a piece of equipment. Why are we doing this versus that? And, do we have the ability to eliminate this versus that? What's the result of that? How do we measure that? What's the, ultimate impact on value for the customer for making that type of decision?
Well, absolutely love it. Damon, what are anything front of mind on your end?
Yeah. We just helped the client do this, and it's a little extreme, but I think we eliminated all meetings in a company of over 50 people. We just said, listen, we have 0 meetings. We're going to start over. We know we're going to need some, but every one of them is canceled until further notice.
That's awesome.
You need to have one. Let's talk about it and get it scheduled and make sure that we have an agenda. We know what this meeting is there to accomplish. And we're taking notes, and it's published so everyone can see the results of the meeting. Because we actually were analyzing the time spent in meetings, and across the 60-person organization, it was about 35% of their day.
Wow.
Yeah. And elimination is powerful. And this, think about this.
Right.
You do not have to work any faster.
Right.
If you eliminate stuff, you just are working on more of the right stuff during the day.
Right.
I'll give you one more to do for a next step for that, Damon.
Nice.
Challenge them to eliminate internal email. I'm serious. If you challenge them to take those internal communications and either make them, a text, a pop-in meeting, right? An impromptu meeting to drive a result, right? But that's what the basis of it is, because the next immediate thing that will happen, I would almost guarantee it, is that you'll see two things: the amount of internal email pickup and the amount of CCs pick up, because everybody wants to CYA, right? And then you will see a slide back to those meeting cadence just kind of start to pop up. So I would randomly, I would encourage them to start monitoring that as, one of the metrics, and see how much of that you can eliminate, because we all get a lot of that.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah.
All right, man, that was juicy. How about Whitney Houston on this one? No agenda, no agenda. So, we're putting this. We're on video today, Damon. We're putting this out on podcast. I want people on podcast to catch this comment.
Yeah.
Whitney says no agenda, no attenda, and Dan Bigger says, hey, and that doesn't cost a fortune. And back here, comment, if you can give me ideas of how we can cut. All right, that might be a one-on-one for Dan. Dan, you need to get on a call with Dave. And hey, this person says Curt Anderson. Did my mom call this person and say to put that in there, Damon? I don't know about that. But all right, let's go here. We're talking about automate, delegate, or eliminate. I just want to share a little testimony. I've been giving so much love to Dave, and I know, his wife called me. We talked about that earlier, but. All right, Dave, you came on the show a while ago. I'm not sure how long ago it was. And the title of the show was Working Hard to Get Lazy. Do you remember that? That, Damon? Working hard to get lazy. And it was just kind of playing words like, how can we get lazy, be as efficient as humanly possible? Let me share with you what Dave did for me. Dude, I'm not exaggerating. I've saved hours. I almost feel guilty of how much time you freed up for me. So automate. Damon, you and I are using a software. I know we're back and forth on the software thing, but we're using a software, Go High Level. Go High Level. Now, when we tracked our guests for the show, I send out a link. Person sends up a link. We've got a whole automation set up. Thanks to you. Thanks to your inspiration. It has cut my time down literally hours. I'm now using my calendar, like everybody, if you're not using Calendly or whatever, your scheduling link, Dave really encouraged me to get that going. I've got that down efficient. And so there's just a lot of things. On the delegate side, Damon, Teresa on my team. Yep. Teresa, God bless you. I love you. She's doing she makes this show happen behind the scenes. She puts out all of our content. She's just an absolute relentless rock star. So Dave, again, you've really spearheaded, been my accountability coach, helping me to get more efficient with these processes. And dude, I thank you. I love you. I can't,
love it.
So if you guys, think about it as a solopreneur, solo marketer, challenge yourself. And I'm going to share this and I'm going to stop talking. Get a mentor, get a coach, get on a call with Dave Crysler. Follow Dave on LinkedIn, follow his posts on a daily basis. He puts out just amazing, ridiculous content to help. He's just such a go-giver. So please connect with Dave. Dave, I'm going to go here. I'm changing little gears. On your LinkedIn profile, you have I help clients overcome I can't read my own writing. I feel like Dan Bigger. What's on things that are holding them back. Okay. You talk about number one, drive growth, improve your process, get your operational excellence snapshot. If you don't mind, I'd love to dig into each of those three quickly. I don't want to keep you all day. Yeah. But you talk about driving growth, improving your process to improve profitability. Man, let's make sure we keep that word in there. And number three, get your operational excellence snapshot. Let's start with number one. How do you help folks drive growth?
Yeah, it really comes down to kind of three key areas, productivity, generally inventory, and quality. So taking a look at your operation through those lenses And, I know we're focused on manufacturing, but this applies outside of that as well, right? So a lot of times people think, I'm not creating a product. I don't have quality. Well, you want to ensure you have a consistent client experience, don't you? You want to ensure that your team is taken care of and understands what their tasks and responsibilities are, don't you? So I would argue that you definitely have a quality, department in your sphere, regardless of the business. And the same thing for inventory. People don't think of inventory most people would think of inventory in the traditional sense, manufacturer, raw material, finished goods, right? But we're all buying stuff all day long, right? So it's just a matter of your definition. I would argue that every business has something in one of those three categories. And that for me is really kind of the roadmap. That's the lens. Those are the three starting points. And from there, we kind of dig into that next layer down.
Well, I love it. And Damon, let's grab a few more comments here. Guys, thank you for the chat box is on fire, Dave.
Yeah, chat box is on fire. Just thanks so much, everybody. We'd love it. Love it.
Diane,
I love this comment from Diane. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the touch at once policy. Absolutely love that. Can we change the procedures of just touching it once? Ron Higgs, apparently this is, hey, Ron, happy Friday to Ron Higgs is in the house. One easy measure is to ask the question, what's going to be different at the end of the meeting? What a great question that is. Everybody jot that one down. What's going to be different at the end of this meeting? And Whitney says, that was Dan Bigger was my former employer, never had an agenda, and the leaders would often go on tangents, talk about a time suck. And she says, Ron Higgs, I love that. So again, guys, keep those comments coming. Keep the questions coming for Dave. All right, so we covered, keep it rolling, Dave. What other comments do you want to have for your process here?
Yeah. Well, one of the other things that, that you mentioned in terms of, things that people can look out for and do. One of the things I think I hear universally from the folks that I talk to is, Dave, we recognize we have XYZ problem, but we just don't know where to start. And, it kind of, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that phrase, and it honestly, it always makes me laugh because I always give the same answer, right? What do you mean you don't know where to start? Like, we start at the beginning. What's so hard about that? Right. But the real challenge in that is, it's simple, but it's not easy. And it's not easy because we look at things and, have a really hard time understanding how everything is interconnected and exactly what are the bounds of the things that I'm trying to solve for. So if we're talking about productivity, let's say, because that's kind of how we started this conversation, when we talk about it through that lens of, eliminate, automate, and delegate. Well, there's kind of two key parts of productivity, right? You've got the efficiency piece of it, which we can certainly talk about through that framework, but you also have the utilization piece of it. And it gets back to that. For that, it's the busy versus productive thought process, right? So you just start peeling back all of these layers. And that's where I love tools like process mapping or value stream mapping. It really gives you a sense of like, what are all the pieces that are interconnected? And it really starts, the more people you bring into that mix, both kind of what I say directly involved, right? So people touching the process. Yep. More importantly, and a piece that a lot of people miss is the indirect folks, right? People that are on the outside circle of that are either before or after the process, maybe somebody in leadership, maybe somebody that just has a really unique perspective that we want to bring into this kind of, mix of solving for a particular challenge. But that's where all of those tools come in. And that is like that. I literally just gave you, that's my methodology for figuring out where to start, right? It's super simple. You always start at the beginning. Like that's obvious. Yeah. What makes it a little less easy is the fact that you've got to kind of navigate all of those different things and understand, how everything is interconnected, and ultimately what do we want to make the starting point for this particular thing.
Yeah, I love that. And even like those uncomfortable moments, Damon, like when you said eliminate meetings, does it make everybody kind of like we can't eliminate meetings. We've always had meetings, so maybe this is for all of us out here. I'm preaching like this. We brought the expert here just for everybody. As a matter of fact, Dave, you know what? It's not for everybody else. It's just for me and Damon. Like we just, Damon and I desperately need a little efficiency, little adjustment. It's like going to the chiropractor. Yeah. And so that's why we brought you. This is really just.
I love it. Well, I'm happy to be here. So
think about what Damon just said about, what if you eliminated meetings? What Dave just said, what if you eliminated internal emails? So for our friends that are solos out there, working on your own or that type of thing, what if you convert, you always book a 60-minute meeting? Well, a lot of times you're going to go that full 60 minutes because you booked a 60-minute meeting. Yeah. What if you 45 minutes? What if you convert them to 30 or to 15 or just get more militant? What if you respond to emails at a certain time? And I turn my email up, like my computer, my email does not ring or ding from 8 till 5 every day. I don't have my email. My business email does not go to my phone. I refuse. So weekends, after 5 o'clock, I don't know who emails me.
Yeah.
So what are there? I don't know. I'll put it out to both you guys. Are there any other pushbacks, any other suggestions that you guys have that would help kind of really control our time? Dave, do you have anything?
Yeah. I mean, I turned notifications off across all devices more than a year ago.
Nice.
Yeah. And I will never go back because you don't realize how distracting that is until you've done that. And then you're like, how did I live without doing this? Yeah. And now, what that frees me up for is, much more focused block scheduling. So back to your point, Curt, there are very focused times that I have to do really all of the key drivers for my business. Mm-hmm. And when I started to prioritize that way, it's pretty shocking how quickly things changed. Mm-hmm. And, so again, you can apply that from a solopreneur standpoint. You can apply that in, a large organization. Now, the big challenge in the bigger the organization you get, obviously, the more kind of hurdles you've got to cross in terms of rolling a change like that out. It's two totally different conversations to eliminate all meetings in a small to medium sized business compared to an enterprise level that has multiple facilities, multiple layers of leadership, multiple, kind of initiatives rolling. It's not impossible, but you certainly have to solve for that change management piece. So yeah, I would encourage people to certainly do the notification thing. And back to what you said too, Curt, look for those opportunities to kind of capture your time back, and you could do that one of a number of ways. You can shorten meetings, you can eliminate meetings when it doesn't appear that there's, great synergy, whether that's with a prospect, a client, or a networking partner. It's okay to say, I don't think this really makes a lot of sense. You're a great person, but, I think our time is better spent in other places. Thanks for connecting.
That's a big change I've made in my schedule now. Well, people can see it on LinkedIn. I've got a link that you can schedule a meeting with me. I limited the amount of time that link has available in my schedule, blocked out. It's not just when I work. And also they get it as soon as I get someone booked, it sends them a nice email and says, hey, I just want to understand what you want to talk, because if I'm not the right resource, I want to get you to the right person. Right. Yeah. And I cannot tell you how much those two steps have done, because you'd fill up and then you wouldn't have people that would attend, or you would have people that wanted to do, try to sell you something or something like that. Right. And that's all gone. Right. Now you have really good meetings with a few people every week. Right. Instead of having 10 on the schedule and realizing that those one or two are the ones you really wanted to get to. Yeah. So, yeah. It's protecting your schedule is super important. And I was mentioning this the other day when Curt and I were talking on a live stream about Dorie Clark, The Long Game. Read that book. She talks about it. Just be relentless about that. Yeah. I've even done it with podcast requests. I used to go on every one. Now I really think about, and then you got to think, is it really where I should be spending my time?
Right. Yeah. Right. And all right. And Diane Byer, my dear friend, how about this, Damon? One of the things to do is call your superhero expert, Dave Crysler, come on down. And I love what Diane says.
This is cool what she said too. This is a great thing, and I don't do it. I'm going to start doing it. Yeah.
I book my meetings for 30 minutes, but I tell everyone I plan to be done in 20. I let them know that we can go 30 if needed. I can usually finish in 15. God bless you. That is
Setting
great
expectation.
Hey,
Yeah.
is everybody sitting down? I'm standing. Is any Dave? Are you sitting down? Are you ready?
I'm sitting down. Yeah.
Dude. Gail Robertson is in the house
Gail,
today. So
so
Gail, man,
Awesome,
the
Gail.
king of process is a gem. And
Yeah.
so this is all right. Let's go here. One of our another tagline that we love to use, Dave, and I'd love to get your feedback on this. Sarah had asked, boy, what are things that I can eliminate? This is hard to do, Damon. One of my favorite lines, what's coming. Niche down till it hurts. Niche down till it hurts. I think that's one. And I wish that was a superpower of mine. I'm conscious of it. I'm constantly preaching it. I wish I was great at it. It's like how, like focusing on your business, what marketing initiatives, what accounting, what do you delegate? What do you automate? What do you eliminate? Dave, do you have any comments as far as like, as entrepreneurs, sometimes we're going, hey, somebody's throwing money at, somebody's waving a check and I'm going to go grab it because we've got families to feed. What does that line mean to you? And how could that be applicable to your operational excellence? How do we niche down till it hurts?
Yeah. I think every entrepreneur has navigated this or will navigate it, right? If they haven't gone through it yet, they certainly will. I know I did and have multiple times. And I think there's always an initial fear that you're kind of shutting down opportunities, right? Back to your point. Everybody, right? When you start a business, is trying to grow that business. They love doing the thing, and they've got to learn a lot of other skills and activities that go around it. And, the reality of it is that however you've kind of, grown up and come to be doing whatever it is that you're doing, all of that is the superpower to connect to. And what I found for myself is just, I know I can have a deeper level conversation with a certain subset of people. And so anytime somebody from outside of that comes into my world, it's not that I don't think I could add value there. It's not that I don't think I could have influence or help them. But the reality of it is, every time I do that, I am taking away an opportunity from somebody that I can provide even deeper level expertise to, even a bigger transformation, faster, larger in terms of return on investment, however you want to quantify that. So every time I do that, not to say I haven't, and not to say I don't enjoy it, and not to say that there hasn't been big transformations, but that was the unlock for me. I had to recognize that every time I open myself up to that, I am closing myself down to an opportunity to have an even bigger result.
We just need to stop and listen to this. Soak it in.
We're just taking a moment of silence. Everybody, do me a favor. Pick up your mic. Drop it on the floor. That was Dave. You said you didn't know if you're going to live up to expectations.
Yeah,
you just crushed it. So, guys, do us a favor.
Rewind and listen to that. If you just got in here,
go back and listen to that again. Think about, I had somebody that told me this years ago, and I see if this resonates with folks. When I have a cousin I'm super tight with, and this is like 20 years ago. We were talking about work and this, that, and he goes, "Do you ever get chills when you're working at something?" Like, I'm getting chills right now. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're trying to, you're fired up, and you're, he's like, that's your zone of genius. Like, that's when you're in, like, that's when you're crushing it." So, Diane says, I love this line right here. If you don't niche down till it hurts, it will hurt much later down the road, Diane. Amen, sister. Right?
Yeah.
If you don't niche down till it hurts, Dave, dude, you just summed it up so perfectly of like, how do you get into that zone of genius? And I know it's not easy to always be there. And we're going to do things that we don't want to do or maybe don't want to do. But boy, when you can just share that passion, and I feel like you've really found yours. I know we're like, I'm keeping you, we're going into time. What was it like when you your big corporate guy started off entrepreneur, mom and dad, you're at the shop on the weekends, watching mom, dad had some health challenges. You go corporate for many years. What was it like for you taking that entrepreneurial leap? Was it exciting, scary, family, obligations? For folks out there that like, you know what, man, I'd like to do this entrepreneurial thing. Can just share with folks, what was that like for you?
Yeah. I mean, what I will share is that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And most entrepreneurs do not share all of the real scaries that come along with it. Most people aren't real when it comes to the challenges, the feelings behind, constantly navigating the ups and downs of what that looks like, big wins, huge lulls. It really is a roller coaster. All that said, right, it's a ton of fun when you find your people, when you find your zone of genius, when you could literally talk for hours about something as simplistic as, you know, eliminate, automate, and delegate,
Yeah.
right? So that there is something to it, but recognize that it's not for everybody. I
Yeah.
worked for other people for a long, long time, and I would never trade any of those, moments, opportunities, any of it. And for me, kind of the genesis to leave that, I really had two paths, right? And I was exploring staying in that world. Just so happened for me, I found an opportunity to leave that seemed like it made a lot of sense. And here I am, 7 years later, and still figuring it out, right? So
Awesome.
Okay, another drop the mic right there. All right, and what I think every entrepreneur can attest. And thank you for your vulnerability. And I'm right there with you, brother. It's I've been I don't have any hair left, right? I've been doing this entrepreneur thing for like 34 years. I'm like, what am I? I have friends that are retiring now. Like they went off and they're civil servants, or like they went and worked at in pharma and these med companies. I'm like, what do you guys, now they're retiring. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what was I thinking, So thank you for your vulnerability, where like entrepreneurship is challenging, but man, it is fun, right?
Yeah.
You won't trade it for the world. And all right. One more comment here, Damon. Gail says operational excellence equals Dave Crysler, the Crysler Club. Dave is his superpower is to help improve your process. It is like found money.
Yeah.
And again, if you guys missed it, I shared my testimonial. Dave, I cannot express my gratitude to you, what you've done for me, and I know what you've done for many other entrepreneurs and businesses out there. Let's start winding things down. Damon, any questions, comments, thoughts? That I know, like you've been on fire this whole interview jam session. What's going through your mind?
Yeah, I just think of Dave when I'm in helping people, right? I do. I was this week again. How can we eliminate that?
Right.
How can we automate it? How can we delegate this? And it's amazing if you just go, okay, first of all, can we get rid of it? Then can we have somebody else do it? And then if we have to, we'll automate it.
Yeah.
Just those three things are so powerful.
So simple, not necessarily easy, but it is simple, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you find that place to start? Damon, I was in that mastermind last year with Dorie Clark and that Dorie Clark group. We sat in the middle of Dorie Clark's apartment, and I said, well, my buddy Dave Crysler says this, and so like I'm telling Dorie Clark about Dave Crysler.
I love it.
About how to eliminate, automate, delegate. And so, Dave, let's start winding down, folks.
Yeah.
Let's again connect with Dave on LinkedIn. Where can folks find you? Let's go there.
Yeah, super active on LinkedIn, on X or Twitter, as we all still call it. I think.
Still call it, yeah.
So yeah, would love to connect with you. Super active on both of those platforms. You can always find me on my website as well, at the Crysler Club. And yeah, would love to connect, love to have a conversation, but even more so, just share ideas, engage with each other and see how we can support more folks kind of doing this type of activity.
Yeah. And what I love is you have a tagline: operational excellence on demand. It doesn't have to be a super expensive, oh my goodness, so if you're a small manufacturer, if you're a solopreneur, you're a small team, you can reach out to Dave, and Dave can certainly help you. If you're working with manufacturers in a different space and you're like, man, they could use a little help with efficiency, Dave's definitely your guy. Dave, before we let you go, Damon and I have one more question for you. Are you sitting down?
I'm ready, man. Fire away.
Damon, we're gonna go there.
Let's do it.
So you know what? Dave. We're talking about like how gorgeous it is. It's February, but it's gorgeous. Yeah. Usually, you and I are like buried in snow, and,
right?
It's one. My daughter can't go skiing today, So spring is like, Damon, our favorite
there.
time of year, dude. Like spring. Dave, are you a baseball fan by any chance?
Well, you know, I mean, I would say I was a bigger fan when I was a young
Yeah.
a young lad than I am these days. You know, the Tigers.
Tigers, yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? I took my daughter to a Tigers game last year. Beautiful stadium. So
Yes.
let me just give you just a hypothetical. I'm asking for a friend. Okay. Let me just give you a hypothetical. Right, Damon, don't you think? Okay, Dave Crysler. It's the bottom of the ninth. There's a guy on second base. 2 outs, tie score. 2 outs, tie score. A guy in the Tigers. Okay, manager is like, okay, looks down the bench and says, Crysler, dude, grab your helmet, grab your bat, get to the plate. Dude, I've got dinner reservations. I need that run scored so we can win this darn game. Dave Crysler, you grab your helmet, you grab your bat, you're walking to the plate. What's your walk-up song?
Now, I'm going to spoil this a bit for you because you asked me this question before.
I did ask you last time.
And I totally threw you for a loop. And my answer is still going to be the same. And afterwards, I think we stayed on and we pulled it up on YouTube and you saw how epic this answer really was. So the answer for anybody that didn't see that is Carmina Burana. Okay. Oh Fortuna. I'm telling you, YouTube it. You're going to understand after this.
Damon, you on it?
What's the name of the song?
It's Oh Fortuna, but just put in Carmina Burana and it'll come up.
So, you know what? I think when you were on with somebody else, I did it.
I mean, how could you not want to come out to that?
Oh yeah.
You know what? I did ask you.
That is a good one. Yeah.
You know what? I think you're on with Greg Mishu, and you're right. I did it. I think I asked you guys. It was that.
This is a good one, though. This is a good one. You think about that song. They use it in movies a lot too.
Right?
And yeah.
It's that moment. It's
that
the moment that everybody has been waiting for.
Hey, Dave Crysler, you might have to drop that in the chat box on LinkedIn for everybody.
Yeah.
So they have a little weekend walk up, they can be fired up. So
I encourage anybody that wants to, go out and look for some operational excellence to play that before you hit the floor.
Yeah.
For your morning walk. And I guarantee you will feel juiced up.
That is awesome. Well, thank you for remembering. You know what? Because I didn't ask you I checked our first interview. I think I asked you with Greg Mishu. So thank you for playing along. Dave, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, dude. I appreciate your friendship, our admiration, respect, just off the charts for you. Appreciate what you do for the friends, family, and everybody on LinkedIn. Just, you're such an inspiration, go-giver, and we just appreciate you. Guys, if you've been sitting around, man, we've been going for 57 minutes. You've been sitting the whole time. It's a great time to stand up and give Dave a huge standing ovation.
Thanks, you guys.
For just giving us a free masterclass.
Yeah.
And that's why Damon and I just love and honored that you join us week in, week out, and that we get to do this and jam out with guys like Dave Crysler. Damon, dude, I told you this was this was good. So, guys, go out and be someone's inspiration, just like Dave Crysler. Damon, I can't even talk anymore. Take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, Curt. Thanks, Dave. Just an incredible session with us today on the Manufacturing E-commerce Success Show. We're talking about automate, delegate, eliminate your way to success. Man, it was a masterclass. If you were listening to this and you just got in it late, go back to the beginning and start from beginning to go to the end. The chat box was on fire. If you are here with us on LinkedIn or Twitter, X or Twitter, or whatever you want to call it, and we got some even off of Twitch today. So thanks everyone for the comments. Thanks for being here. Those that didn't comment, we love that you're out there listening and still appreciate it every single day. We'll be back again with Monday. We got another guest on Monday. Who we got up Monday, Curt?
Dude, we're going to the MEPs. We've got the director of the Connecticut MEP this Monday. So we're in Connecticut on Monday. Then we're bringing in the Alaska MEP on Friday. Dude, we're going like from both ends of the coast to coast. So big MEP next week. It's going to be awesome. Again, guys, thank you. God bless you. Have a killer weekend. Dave, hang out with us for 1 second. And
Yeah.
we'll see you guys.
Thanks so much, you guys. Tons of fun as always.
See y'all.